Welcome in. It is just great to have you sitting down with us today, learner.
Yeah, welcome. We've got a really great deep dive for you today.
We absolutely do.
Yeah.
Because whether you are, prepping to tackle some massive new initiative at work or trying to map out a completely new field of study.
Or even if you're just someone who loves pulling apart complex systems.
Right, exactly. You are in the exact right place today. Our mission for this deep dive is to figure out how to tackle massive, complex projects without getting, well, completely overwhelmed by information overload.
Yeah, that information overload is pretty much the defining bottleneck right now. I mean, for anyone trying to learn or build anything,
Oh, absolutely.
we just have access to infinite data points. But without a reliable scaffolding to hold them together,
Mm.
all of that raw data just degrades into digital noise.
It's just noise.
Yeah,
And to figure out how to build that scaffolding, we are looking at a highly specific set of notes as our source material today.
really fascinating notes, too.
Yeah, they are. The author of these notes has documented this systematic framework for creating large-scale projects using AI, but rather than just, throwing random prompts into a chat window.
Which is what most people do.
Right. They treat the entire process exactly like writing a comprehensive book. And to properly contextualize what we are about to discuss, it is important to note that today is Wednesday, March 4, 2026.
Yes, the time frame is actually crucial to the methodology here.
It really is. Keep that specific date in mind, learner, because it is the driving force behind a highly time-sensitive case study in the author's notes that we'll be analyzing shortly.
And just to kind of reflect the core thesis of our source material today, I have actually set my mental backdrop to look like a series of vast architectural blueprints layered over this bustling digital library.
Oh, I like that visual.
Thanks. The overarching argument here is that we need a fundamental shift in how we view artificial intelligence. We have to stop treating AI as a simple parlor trick.
Right, or like a basic chatbot that just spits out isolated paragraphs on command.
Exactly. The author is demanding we view it as a structural partner for organizing human knowledge. It is the architect that helps you build a permanent library of your own expertise.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because looking at the source material, the absolute first step, the bedrock of this entire architectural process, is that every single AI project must start with what the author calls a big picture.
The big picture, yeah.
You cannot start by asking the AI to write an outline or generate ideas out of thin air. You have to define a highly specific main topic immediately. And to illustrate this, the author shares a real-world case study from their own life. Survival swimming.
What a specific example.
Yeah.
But the stakes attached to that specific example are exactly what make the methodology work.
Right.
The author doesn't just want to learn about swimming in the abstract. They note that exactly 3 years ago, they passed a rigorous survival swimming instructor test.
Yeah, this wasn't just a weekend class.
No, this was a professional level certification.
Yeah.
They were training in the water alongside instructors who already held professional lifeguard licenses.
The notes mention it was a grueling 3-day ordeal. It involved rigorous written exams and highly demanding practical tests in the water, which actually brings us to the significance of today's date.
March 4, 2026.
Exactly. Because it has been exactly 3 years since that initial certification, the author is facing a mandatory license renewal.
And that clock is ticking.
Ticking fast. That renewal training begins in exactly 10 days, on March 14th.
Wow.
So the author is using this upcoming week to build a comprehensive AI project to review and remind themselves of all the granular skills and knowledge they learned 3 years ago.
What's fascinating here is how this looming deadline completely alters the psychology of interacting with an artificial intelligence.
How do you mean?
Well, when most people open an AI interface, they suffer from the blank page problem. They input a vague, generalized prompt, and unsurprisingly, they receive a vague, generalized output.
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out, essentially.
Precisely. But by starting with a personal, high-stakes big picture, an impending rigorous exam where you will literally be tested in the water alongside professional lifeguards in 10 days, the author is grounding the entire AI project in immediate reality.
It gives it teeth.
It forces a set of practical constraints onto the AI. The output has to be strictly relevant. You aren't asking the machine to muse about the history of survival swimming.
Right, you don't need a Wikipedia article.
You are forcing it to help you build a highly personalized survival toolkit that you have to physically execute next week.
I want to push on that idea of the personalized toolkit, actually, because the source material immediately pivots to the mechanics of how you actually construct it.
The actual building phase.
Yes. Once you have that big picture and those high stakes defined, the author introduces a structural analogy. They state that organizing an AI project from A to Z is exactly like writing a textbook.
Like a textbook.
Every single section of your project needs to become a chapter, and within those chapters, you have to systematically layer in explanations, examples, and stories.
The textbook analogy is so powerful because it demands sequential logic. It moves the user away from the fragmented way we usually consume digital information.
Which is usually just scrolling, right?
Exactly. And it forces a cohesive pedagogical narrative. You are essentially building an entire curriculum.
And the notes actually map out the exact architecture the author used for the survival swimming project. They didn't just ask for a generic study guide. They forced the AI to break the subject down into 7 distinct chapters.
7 chapters, okay.
Yeah. Chapter 1 is an introduction to survival swimming. Chapter 2 maps out water safety principles. Chapter 3 isolates floating techniques.
And let me guess, chapter 4 builds on that.
It does. Chapter 4 is dedicated entirely to using life jackets. Chapter 5 covers rescue methods. Chapter 6 prepares the reader for emergency situations. And finally, Chapter 7 focuses on training programs.
Let's analyze the progression of those 7 chapters for a second, specifically looking at something like Chapter 3 floating techniques or Chapter 5 rescue methods. These are highly physical kinesthetic actions. Normally translating the physical mechanics of body buoyancy or a water rescue into text is incredibly tedious.
Yeah, you lose a lot of the nuance.
You lose almost all the nuance. But by forcing these topics into isolated chapters within a broader textbook structure, you are giving the AI a very specific container to work within.
Right.
You are telling the system, do not worry about the life jackets or the emergency protocols right now. Devote your entire context window to breaking down the physics and body mechanics of floating.
That isolated focus is huge. And the text outlines 5 specific ways the AI functions within this chapter-by-chapter framework.
What are the 5 roles?
First, it helps organize ideas, taking the author's scattered memories of the training and grouping them logically.
Makes sense.
Second, it corrects grammar to ensure the technical communication is flawless. Third, it actually structures the chapters, making sure the flow from floating to life jackets to rescue methods makes sequential sense.
Right, the pedagogy.
Exactly. Fourth, it creates the underlying explanations for these complex physical concepts. And fifth, it generates specific examples to bring those technical explanations to life.
Those 5 roles represent a massive shift in how we allocate cognitive resources.
Oh, they really do.
Organizing ideas, correcting grammar, structuring flow, explaining concepts, and generating examples. Notice what is missing from that list learner.
What's missing?
The AI is not generating the core expertise. The human is bringing the big picture, the high stakes, and the foundational knowledge from their rigorous training.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The AI is simply acting as a high-powered structural editor.
Let me play devil's advocate for a moment, though.
Sure.
If the AI is the one creating the explanations and generating the examples roles 4 and 5 on that list, doesn't that risk diluting the author's actual expertise?
That's a valid concern.
Like, if the machine is coming up with the examples, aren't we just reading an AI's hallucination of what a water rescue looks like rather than the author's lived experience?
That is the exact trap this textbook methodology is designed to avoid.
How so?
Because the author established the high stakes and the strict 7-chapter architecture first. The AI isn't generating examples in a vacuum.
Right.
The human provides the raw data, say a specific memory of how to position a victim's airway during a rescue. And the AI's role is merely to format that raw data into a clear, digestible explanation.
So it's a formatting tool.
Yes. The AI handles the cognitive load of syntax transition sentences and paragraph structure. This frees up the human creator's mental energy entirely.
They don't have to waste hours agonizing over how to perfectly phrase a transition between Chapter 3 and Chapter 4.
Exactly. They can spend all their energy ensuring the technical accuracy of the rescue method itself.
That makes a lot of sense. The AI is managing the formatting so the human can obsess over the facts.
Precisely.
But having a perfectly formatted, highly accurate textbook sitting on your hard drive doesn't mean much if the information isn't actually digestible for the end user. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
The source material introduces a concept called content connection.
This is arguably the most critical insight in the notes for anyone trying to communicate complex systems in the modern digital landscape.
It really is. The author illustrates this by pointing out a massive flaw in how we currently share information online. Let's look at it through the lens of video platforms like YouTube, for example.
The YouTube dilemma.
Right. If you upload one isolated video explaining a single survival swimming technique, Maybe just a 5-minute clip on how to tread water viewers are not going to fully grasp the material.
No, they might pick up a neat trick, but they will remain completely ignorant of the broader survival system.
To actually teach someone, the author argues you need a connected series. They outline a strict A through D episode structure to combat this fragmentation.
How does the A2D structure work?
Well, episode A must be the introduction. Episode B must cover basic skills. Episode C transitions into training methods. And episode D culminates in advanced techniques.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author is detailing the cognitive architecture of a learning route.
A learning route.
Yes.
Mhm.
We live in an era governed by algorithmic feeds that serve us isolated nodes of information. You watch a video on astrophysics, followed by a video on baking, followed by a video on water rescue.
It's just random inputs.
And that fragmentation destroys the ability to build a mental framework.
It strips away all the necessary context. You're left with a head full of trivia, but zero actual comprehension of how things connect.
Precisely. The A through D learning route forces the consumer to follow a progressive path. When people move systematically from episode A to episode B and then on to C and D, they are building cognitive scaffolding.
The basic skills in episode B only make sense because the introduction in episode A laid the groundwork.
Exactly. This is a great moment for you, the learner, to analyze your own habits. How are you currently trying to acquire new skills?
That's a great question.
Are you bouncing around hoping to absorb expertise through sheer volume of disconnected media? Or are you actively seeking out or even building a structured learning route that respects the prerequisites of knowledge?
Because the human brain simply does not retain isolated fragments long term, it retains interconnected systems.
It needs the connections.
So what does this all mean? We have this theoretical framework of big pictures, 7-chapter textbooks, and A through D learning routes. But the author's notes actually provide concrete proof of concept to show that this highly structured approach works in the real world.
And across wildly different disciplines, too.
Yes. The author details 2 past projects where they successfully deployed this exact AI methodology, and the contrast between the 2 subjects is what proves the viability of the framework.
What was the first project?
The first past project detailed in the notes was focused on surfing. The author built a connected project that explained the absolute basics of posture and balance, specifically tailored for beginner surfers who had never been on a board before.
Think about the complexity of prompting an AI to teach surfing.
Oh, it's huge.
You are dealing with proprioception, spatial awareness, shifting weight dynamics, and ocean currents. It is an entirely kinesthetic experience.
Just like the water rescue.
Exactly. Translating the physical sensation of finding your center of gravity on a moving wave into a structured text-based learning route is a massive challenge.
Yet, by forcing it into that strict chapter structure, it worked. But to prove that this isn't just a fluke for physical activities, the second past project the author highlights is on the complete opposite end of the academic spectrum.
The opposite end, okay.
It was a project focused purely on language learning titled 45 English Sentences.
A shift from the physical to the highly abstract.
Exactly. The author used the AI to build a structural project that introduced exactly 6 distinct sentence patterns.
Just 6 patterns.
Just 6. And the claim made in the source material is significant. By focusing a learning route entirely on mastering just these 6 specific patterns, learners are able to understand the foundational mathematical structure of the English language.
Which drastically improves their practical speaking ability, I imagine.
Exactly. They bypass the rote memorization of endless vocabulary and use the AI to build a structural map of the language itself.
The synthesis of these 2 examples is brilliant. On one side, you have surfing zombification, a physical activity demanding balance and muscle memory. On the other side, you have the linguistic challenge of English syntax and grammar patterns.
2 totally different worlds.
But by successfully executing both projects, the author proves that the chapters in a book methodology is universally applicable.
It works for anything.
The foundational architecture, starting with high stakes, breaking the subject into sequential chapters, and forcing a progressive learning route, holds up, regardless of the specific furniture you place inside it.
That's a great way to put it.
You can build a house for a surfer or a house for a linguist. The blueprints for the foundation remain identical.
We have covered incredible ground today. Learner looking at how the author used this framework to dissect everything from language acquisition to surfing posture to the grueling realities of a 3-day survival instructor exam.
We really have.
But the source material beautifully distills all of this complexity down to one final, actionable takeaway for anyone trying to build something of value. The author concludes, quote, "A good AI project should have strong content and a clear structure, just like a well-written book."
It is a profound shift in perspective. You are not chatting with an AI. You are co-authoring a textbook with a structural editor.
Exactly.
However, looking back at the author's impending March 14 deadline, this raises an important question.
What's that?
The stated goal in the notes is that the author is building this comprehensive AI survival swimming project to remind themselves of the skills before their renewal tests.
Right, to study for it.
But if we look at the cognitive science of what we've just discussed, does that mean the ultimate study hack isn't just reviewing material?
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Is the most efficient way to learn a subject actually forcing an AI to help you build a comprehensive textbook to teach that material to someone else? Can the act of structuring knowledge for others be the absolute best way to permanently solidify it for yourself?
That completely flips the dynamic of learning. You are saying that by acting as the architect of the information, by painstakingly mapping out the chapters, the explanations, and the learning routes, the author is inadvertently guaranteeing they will ace that practical exam.
Yes. They aren't just reading a study guide, they are building the library itself and internalizing every book inside it in the process.
It is the ultimate application of the methodology. You structure the knowledge to teach the machine, and in doing so, you master the knowledge yourself.
Exactly.
Well, learner, we hope this deep dive has fundamentally changed how you view the tools at your disposal and given you a robust new framework for approaching your own complex projects.
Absolutely.
As you head back into your work today, take a look at the challenges in front of you and ask yourself, what big picture topic in your own life could you start architecting into a structured learning route right now? Keep building those chapters, keep structuring your knowledge, and we will see you on the next deep dive.